Hi, everybody. Welcome back to season 3. This is our first episode of Inside Creative Minds, and we have a new co-host. Tochi, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Tochi, and I go by he, she, and they pronouns.
Cool. So we have got a lot of questions for you, and also we just have a lot of questions in general. For those of you who are new to the podcast, welcome. We've been out for about a month or so, so a lot of people were like, "Hey, are you guys okay? Did anybody die?" We're alive. We're fine, relatively. So let's talk about what has been going on and answer some questions because that's what today's episode is all about. So I think if you're okay with it, we can do the questions that were directed towards you as a new co-host. Do you want to do that first?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So the first question for you is why did you join the podcast team?
I joined because I felt like really passionate about activism and about especially educational injustices. So it's just very important to me, especially because I faced that.
Mhm. Right. Okay, cool. God, there's so many questions.
It's fine.
Okay. Y'all really like tapped in. I'm not gonna lie. Okay. This is a little deeper question. Why is educational injustice so important to you?
Whoa, okay. It's important to me because I feel like everybody should feel welcome when they're doing something that they're required to do to live and survive. I feel like they shouldn't hate their whole life. Like I feel like we shouldn't have the standards of like, oh, I hate my job, oh, I hate going to school. Like
Right.
that shouldn't be our regular lives. Like I mean, obviously we're gonna have like issues with certain things, and we're not gonna think everything is perfect.
Right.
Nothing's gonna be perfect. But damn, like it's not doing great right now. And I feel like anybody that's been at school would know, and anybody that's like a person of color especially, or queer on top of that, like especially with intersectional identities. So that's
No,
why, because I'm
for
like,
for real
we are
though.
all tired.
For real. Like
Somebody has to do something
seriously,
at
the
some point.
amount the amount of people who say like, "Oh, I just hate going to school," or I mean like or just hate existing in like a
And people
school
just brush it off.
building. Yeah,
Like adults will just brush it off.
that's
Like
normal. It's
anybody that's
normal.
like, I don't know why, but it's like it'll be people that are like 40s and above that'll be brushing it off. But then people that are younger than that, like they're kind of like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what I've seen. But some people that are like middle aged and up are more understanding. But it's like I don't see it as often.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe because of the like age that they were raised in and the standards were different than they are now.
I feel like it could also be the fact that that's kind of like the cap of like ending the generation where it's like we don't talk about any of that, like being annoyed at
Mhm.
school or anything like that. So, and it kind of, well, and then like after, I think millennials are like 25 or like 30 or something now. Honest God, I'm confused by that whole thing. But
It's
that's
like later 30s now
okay. So,
because there
okay,
are
perfect.
like 40-year-old millennials now. Like just
Damn,
40 though. Like
damn.
they're barely like on the well, kind of it's kind of debatable, but yeah.
Okay, so then I guess it would be like Gen X or like or not Gen X, Gen Y. That's like I think kind of like where we started seeing like more people actually speaking out about how much public school sucks.
Mhm.
Also just how
Because I feel
miserable
like
sometimes.
yeah, I feel like before that everyone was like scared to, and the people that actually did were killed and still are, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
But it just kind of depends on your environment and how much protection you have. But sometimes the protection isn't enough, so it's like that's why I feel like I should be helping because I don't know, like maybe I could help somebody out, even if it's just like one person.
Yeah, and also the amount of people that resonate to like most of the episodes that we like publish is actually insane. Because that's kind of a problem. Like, I don't know, it's a problem, but we are here to form a community. Okay. So this next question says, what or where are you in your academic journey right now?
Oh my god. Okay, so currently I'm trying my best. I'm doing cyber high. I don't know if y'all know what that is, but basically it's like summer school, but not quite. It's really confusing. But a
Everything
couple
is
weeks ago,
confusing in academia.
it's credit recovery. But I'm just saying, when I got there, I signed up for summer school, and then when I got into class, they told me I was in a completely different program. And literally hours before, they told me I couldn't go to the program. And then when I got there, they were like, "You're in the program," and I was like,
Oh my God.
but anyways, I'm doing that, and then with like educational stuff, there was a lot of like creepy people on campus, and nobody was doing nothing about it. Like the staff is very like, some of them are like, I'm gonna say shouldn't be around children. That's all I'm gonna
Okay.
say. So it made it harder for me to like do finals. And at my school, we had finals the last 2 days of school, which I don't think is professional at all. I don't know, because I've never heard of anybody doing that last 2 days. And keep in mind, I just got to this school like not even 2 months ago. So I just like, I've been moving
Oh
because I'm a
my
foster kid.
God.
I've just been moving around, around, around. And then I get there and they're still like, you have to do finals. Like, how was I supposed to
Oh,
know?
goodbye.
How was I supposed to know the curriculum? So
Goodbye.
I'm kind of like, I'm in the stage where I don't know where my credits are, because not everybody like cares enough to register the credits. And then on top of
Right.
that, I'm also special ed.
Right.
So, and the special ed guy resigned because of racism. So I'm like, oh, what am I supposed to do? Like, so that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. I'm like, I'm advocating for myself as much as possible.
Yeah.
I have a team because I'm a foster kid. They're gonna assign you a team, but basically, they're good. They're good. I trust them. Not with
Right.
my life, but like kind of, I have to with my life because that's how the system works. But
Yeah.
they're cool. They're all
So
POC. Most of
that's
them are queer.
that's probably going to
So
end up being a whole other episode, to be
mm.
honest. Okay. So this next question asked is, what are you planning on doing after high school?
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, I have a lot of different things that I want to do. So I feel like I'm just gonna go with the flow of everything, like whatever feels right. But basically, I don't want to be one of those people that only has one thing, because
Thank
then
you.
like I'm gonna die.
We'll
Like,
talk
I'm
about,
gonna
well,
be homeless.
I got a rant for that,
Like,
but go ahead.
especially in the Bay Area, like, and or like in California, or in America in general, like you can't just not have one thing sometimes. Like
Really
you,
can't.
at least if you don't want to be in a homophobic city or like homophobic state, because tell me why, like in the homophobic and racist places they'd be much cheaper. Like it's like, interesting, like Nebraska, I don't know, kind of Ohio, to be honest, some parts of Ohio. Like, I'm just saying, like, those
Not
parts
you
be
calling out
cheaper.
individual states, but Ohio, Idaho,
Yeah. I'm just like,
Missouri,
ah. But
Missouri.
I would definitely want to do art, but that's not the only thing. That's why I said I don't want one thing, because art does not always work out.
Yeah.
I do a lot of paintings and stuff, but I also don't like being boxed in, and usually art school boxes you in like hella, and they make you do things you don't really want to do, and I'm not trying to do that.
Right.
So, and they do make you do different mediums that you wouldn't even need to do.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, they would make you do like sculptures when you don't have to do sculptures. Also, though, I would like to do that, but I'm just saying I've heard like people go to art school and be like, I don't want to do sculptures. I was here for animation, and they were
Right.
required to do something else. So it's like, to me, college is like, I want to go to college, but it's also like all of them suck in like
Yeah.
every aspect. So I'm
And that's
like,
why, yeah. And that's why trade schools are so, they're such a good, trade schools and community colleges are such a good option in general, just because you can kind of get away with fucking around and like don't doing that flow thing. And
transfer.
what's even like worse too is, like, going back to when I said I was going to rant, what really sucks is the public education system makes you feel like you need to have like a defined plan when you go into like secondary education, but the reality is you have no fucking clue how college works, or how, literally anything works. You are literally walking into something that you have no fucking clue how it works. And it's such a disaster to have like a fixed plan, because there's no way you're not going to be disappointed when shit goes wrong, and shit is definitely going to go wrong. High school is definitely a preview of that.
Also, I wanted to like baking and cooking and like basically anything to do with art. I
Yes.
want to do, so basically everything that has to do with art. But to me, art is very broad.
You
Like
should go to
art could be
culinary.
music, art could be like painting, art could be poems. It could be like, it's literally so like broad and vague that I could do literally
Art could
anything.
be literally everything we do at the studio.
Exactly.
Oh
That's what
my
I'm
god.
saying. Like I used to do media,
Literally.
Although it was a very toxic work environment, and I was like in eighth grade, even though it was in eighth grade, it was a toxic work environment. I still did it, and I still had my fun with it, and I still made good friends there.
Right.
Teacher, I don't respect though.
Damn.
No, no, no.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was just really weird because I was like 12, and he was like, "This is your job, guys." I was like, the
Okay.
man was 40. The man was like in his 40s. But yeah, it's just I don't know if everybody has like a toxic environment in medias, like in media classes or not, but that was my experience.
I
I
feel
feel like
like,
they push you to push out things like too early because it's a school.
yeah.
So like right now, right now, right now. Because at my school, at least, we would record stuff and we would write our own scripts. We would record everything by ourselves. We would edit everything by ourselves, which is low key giving child labor, but like we're not gonna talk
That's kind
about.
of like, well, giving, like, here, I'm just gonna give you the rubric and you gotta fucking make of whatever you can of it. And that, mm,
He
God.
like taught us certain things, but he would kind of get mad. So I was like, how am I
Goodbye.
supposed to know this is 11 to 12-year-old?
Goodbye.
But yeah,
All
I don't
right.
know. Teachers are odd.
Okay. So this next question, this next question, and I feel like this is going to lead to a really big rant. But this next question says, drop a hot take about education.
I kind of just did like the whole like past questions. I kind of just did. What else? I feel like education is like how like straight people say that you're indoctrinating them by being gay. I feel like that's what education is because it used to be just like making kids work.
Right.
Like education was just kind of like a different form of child labor. Like they just legalized it so they would make child labor legal at the
Right.
beginning of it. So I'm just like, and then you know how there's like teachers will tell you that like this is basically your job, and they'll like pressure you and like act like at least that's what I've
Well,
never heard someone.
and also look how like the literal structure of school works. Not only does it take up so much extra time than it needs to, right? Um, there was a study that came out, and I read this in like 10th grade. Damn, I'm old. Um, and it was just talking about how students in high school can really only designate about 30 minutes plus or minus 10 minutes um, to a specific task. So it really just exposed a big flaw of like why are classes 60 plus minutes at most schools. And I kind of like immediately realized, I was like, oh, this is a big scam. Cool. um,
Exactly. It's in college, and I'm just like, it's giving legalized child labor because that's what it was at the beginning.
and
Like
all
that's what it is.
and
You have to get up
also
hella early for no reason. Like, why is it that early?
it was also a way to literally separate classes. Like there was a very distinguished difference
And it still is.
of it still is. It was a very
We
distinct
pretend like it's not. We pretend like it's not almost always segregation. We
yeah.
pretend like it's not almost always like trying to separate classes on top of like people of color. They only put people of color together with other people of color usually.
Yep.
I'm just like, interesting how the private schools don't really have them people of color. And even the people of color that do have the money to go, for some reason, not racism or anything, but it's just they don't have enough money, that they're not in the right district or the right neighborhood
Right.
or the right distance within the
Yep.
neighborhood to be in that school. It's
Yeah.
always so they always have an excuse instead of racism all
what
the
also
time.
what also sucks too is not only is it a way to separate classes, and not just low income from high income, also everybody in between middle class, right? Because that's still like a very mixed category. But it's also a way to kind of separate people who have the luxury of getting someone to help them with their college applications, for people versus people who are working part-time jobs while they're going to high school, and they kind of have no fucking free time. And I like to engage in conversations with people who talk about, oh, scholarships are out there, they exist, it's free money. And I'm like, well, it's not actually free money, right? You still have to designate time that you could be working, just to get money, right? And
What's supposed to do? It should be free already. It should already be free. Like we
yeah,
shouldn't have to pay to live, or like we shouldn't have to work to live. But that's a whole different conversation about
that really
capitalism.
is a whole different conversation. And it's always interesting because people, will say, oh, the scholarships is free money, just get it, there's a lot of it. I'm like, yeah. um if you have that luxury of being able to
Also,
get it.
like the scholarships could be for schools you don't even want. Like the scholarships could be
That's
for like
true.
a super racist place, or I get like if they're referring to, I kind of not really get when they're referring to like just money in general to go towards school.
Okay,
But it's
yeah,
like
that I can agree with, but
sometimes it's
there,
not even enough.
yeah, honestly,
Caribbean.
especially just in general with, okay, not only how expensive like colleges, but there's also like unhidden fees too, like dorms, food, the supplies you need. Like a lot of people need to buy a new laptop, and that's already 2 grand there. If you want to get a good one, it's 2 grand or more, so that's already like double your scholarship amount. And also most scholarships, like the big ones, people are applying to them all the time, so the odds of you getting it are low. And if you really want to get multiple scholarships, look how many you have to apply to.
On top of that, like people will act like, oh well, like when people say like, oh, we should make stuff free, we should make stuff more affordable. People are like, inflation. I'm like, that's an excuse. That's an excuse not to cover things for people of color, for marginalized communities. Like y'all will say inflation up until it's like you, up until it's about you, and you're like, oh well, I'm getting something free. Who cares about inflation? Like I'm like, like now you don't, now you're not bringing up inflation because
Yeah,
you
I
just
don't.
you
Mm-mm.
benefit from it.
Here's the thing that really pisses me off is there's a lot of people who, will say, oh, okay, let's just use gas as an example because everybody's suffering from gas, including me. I'm dying inside. But a lot of people, say, oh, gas needs to go down and shit. And then okay, let's use an example like Joe Biden. Joe Biden
Oh
has
my
been
god.
preaching,
Don't even get me started.
like, he's been preaching like gas needs to go down. It's really bad for the working class. And I'm like, what the fuck have you been doing then? Saying
Literally. And I'll tell
something.
that to people who support Biden and they'll be like, he's doing so much. I'm like, what is he doing? And they'll be like, he's working. He's working. I'm like,
Um,
are you besties with him? Do you know him personally? Are you seeing him doing something? And oh my god, that reminds me of when he was like, I support trans kids. I'm there for you, trans kids. What about Roe v. Wade? Literally all the anti-trans bills that have been coming out recently. He don't care at all. Like he does not care. Like, and if he even did, like he's just being a centrist. Like he's acting like he's a Democrat and he's a centrist because he's trying to like be like, oh well, about the homophobia and about the trans kids having rights. Let's get the the transphobes and homophobes side though. We need both sides. Because I need to be fair. Like sometimes you
yeah.
don't need both. Sometimes you don't need both sides.
Sometimes you need no sides and you just need to like plow through and just like do something. But I don't like, honest to God, the whole idea of like like the president being like, okay, here's the thing. This is what really gets me mad about when, like when we talk about presidents, is just because a lot of people idealize presidents when they're supposed to be technically working for us, right?
Or they'll
Um,
assume that, like we support Trump. Like no, they're like, oh my god, you support Trump? You're like a Republican. Like I'm like, no, babe, no, I'm not even a liberal because people that tell me that are be liberals. They'd be like white liberals or something, and I'm like,
and
no,
honestly, that's why that's
they
why
be so performative.
hear me out though. This is literally okay. So the most common hate DMs that we get are about how we don't really take political sides. And like Sally and I don't really like identify with any of like the political parties because they're all crap anyway. And also
Exactly.
and also they're
How
all
would they
they're
tell you?
all followers. Nobody can think for themselves. And so like the most common, we don't get a lot of hate DMs, but like the ones that we do, they're like, oh, you don't even support, liberals. I'm like, of course they don't, because most of them are followers. They can't like
Most of most
they
of
don't
them support gentrification. I'm just saying, like it's true. And they don't even know what. Some of them don't even know what gentrification is. They'll just be like, "It's representation, guys. We're bringing in more people." Like, no,
they want to know what
no.
gentrification is, go to Oakland. Go to San
Literally,
Francisco. Go
I
to
was
the
gonna say
Mission
that
District in San
because it
Francisco.
makes me so sad because I used to live there when I was
Oh,
little. Just
go to
like,
the Mission.
no.
Go to the Mission District in San Francisco and go buy go to literally any Hispanic restaurant, and you will see how much shit costs there. It is ridiculous, and it is only because they're trying to fight ridiculous um, rent payments.
Dang.
Literally,
Glad I'm not somewhere where the Mexican food is hella expensive. I
I know.
am blessed.
You know what
And
sucks?
I got Nigerian food right near me too. So I'm like, I got both
Goodbye.
sides. I'm good.
You know what sucks is I live in the part of the Bay where there's not a
There's
lot of good
nothing.
there's not a lot of good Mexican food. Um,
No,
yeah,
you gotta order from like miles away. You gotta order from like 40 miles
I'll
out.
have to drive like 20 miles to get good fucking food. And I'm like,
Yo, I get that because I used to live in Antioch, and I was like
there
so
you
far
go.
out. And people would be like, "It's the Bay
There you
Area,
go.
right?" Like, no, no, no. It's especially in Livermore. Okay? I'm sorry. It's
You know,
not to me. It's really
a
not.
lot of people say that Fresno is part of the Bay Area, and I'm like,
No,
it's
I used to live
really
there. No, it's
far.
not. It's
I
not.
forgot that you live in
No.
Fresno. That's hilarious, by the way. Uh, okay, let's
Fresno's
get
like
back to these
so
questions.
it's gay but homophobic at the same time. And it's racist but performative at the same time. Like it's so confusing.
Every
Like
part
it's
of
so,
California is confusing.
yeah. Fresno doesn't belong in California. Neither does Antioch. Like we need to move these to like Nevada.
Oh God,
To Nevada.
why? Okay. Um, let's, for the sake of time, let's go to the general questions and the questions for pretty much everybody.
Okay.
Okay. Oh God. Okay. Oh God, these are all really deep questions that I don't really think I want to answer. Uh, okay.
I'll
So
answer
this
it.
okay, so this first question is pretty general. I don't know what they specifically mean. Um, but this person said, how would you describe Creative Mind Studios? So I don't know if they were talking about like how would you describe like what we do, or I don't know.
Uh,
Do you want to take this question first?
that's harder for me to do because like I just got here, to be honest. Like you've
Yeah,
been here. You
exactly. You're new.
telling
Exactly.
me
You're
you
new.
can't.
I believe in you. You got it. How would you describe CMS?
Exactly. That's why I just got here. But I would say it's about like being like your own ally, but also being an ally for others. So like being your own advocate, but also being advocates for like everybody around you. But only for the people who deserve it. Like for like marginalized people, like not for like because you could be an advocate for like the worst person on earth. Like you could be an advocate for like I don't know. I was gonna say white people. Oh, I mean like racist people you could be advocates for, but I don't mean that type of advocate. I don't mean that type of advocate. I mean like for marginalized communities and people who have faced injustices, which I'm going back to again because it's like that's the best way I can explain it.
Yeah.
Because injustices are like so broad.
Right.
And I don't want to be super specific because then I could go on like for hours.
Right.
But that's what I would say it is. And then like thinking outside the box, so not just like with the y'all not being connected to just one political party, that would be like a creative mindset. Because it's like
Yeah.
usually people side with one or the other. I personally call myself a leftist, but I'm also like I mainly just say that because I don't claim liberals, I don't claim people on the right, I
You don't
don't
claim
claim
anybody. We
no. But
okay.
yeah, that's basically I would say that's what Creative Mind Studios is. It's just like thinking outside the box, like
Yeah.
being like, oh wait, can we cuss? I
Yeah.
forgot.
Fuck yeah.
I said being that bitch, basically, like
Pretty
because
much.
if you're not an ally, how can you be that bitch? Like that wouldn't make any sense.
And also
Because then
like
you're just like not doing anything.
yeah,
You're
and
just being like,
on that note too, I really like to describe CMS as basically the place that you need to go when you are confused at school because here's what sucks about the education system. Everybody gets screwed over one way or another. It doesn't matter who you are, where you've come from, what you do, who your family is. It doesn't fucking matter. The education system doesn't have any mercy. So everybody will get screwed over at some point. And again, it literally doesn't matter. You can go to a private school, public school, charter, like the community college, combo high schools. It doesn't fucking matter. You're going to get screwed over one way or not. Everybody's a victim. So and everybody also needs resources, right? Everybody, even people who have their foot in the door, where they want to go, they still need to get that other foot in the door. And so the way that I like to describe CMS is, the place that is created by students, for people. Basically, honest to God, let's get real here. Every single person who's on our team has eaten shit before at school, right? Like literally, and also emotionally and academically. And so we've learned something, as we bit the concrete. So we're just helping you not trip. That's literally what we're trying to do, right? Like, I literally cannot describe how many times I have fucked up in high school. Not like getting in trouble, but just like making rookie mistakes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, for example, like pulling all-nighters, not taking notes. When you think you don't need to take notes,
Oh
there's
yeah, the all-nighter thing. People will act like that is the greatest thing that works. Like, no, babe, because the next day you're gonna be like dying. You're gonna be dying. You're not gonna be able to do anything. And then for the next following days too. It's not just the next day.
yeah.
It'd
And
be like
also,
the following week.
thank you. And now that you say that, it kind of reminds me of a TikTok video that I did, a couple months ago, where I was talking about like why all-nighters are literally the worst mistake you can possibly make. And there's a listen,
I don't like that either.
some people say all-nighters, some people all say all-nighters are like, when you stay a couple hours past your bedtime. There's a difference between staying up a couple hours past your bedtime for studying and literally staying up until 4 a.m. and waking up at 7. Do you know what I mean? Those are two
Yeah,
different
we're
things.
not sleeping.
Those are and yeah, those are two different things. But yeah. Anyway, next question. I don't want to answer that question. I'm not
Oh,
answering it.
just I was thinking about. Sorry, I was just thinking about the educational system, and then I saw that the time limit that Zoom has now. I was
The question is,
like,
how do you apply to college? And we don't have time for
I
that.
would not know that. I'm 16. I just barely turned
I do.
16.
I know how
Know
to
that.
answer that. um okay. This is a random question. So this person says, oh, this is Jordan from Forever Blooming. Oh my god, I love them. Okay. So this says, if you could eat one thing for the rest of your life, what would it be?
That is a very good question. Probably, I don't know. Because, like, it would have to be food I've had, like, my whole life. So probably Mexican food or Italian food. Because, like, Italian food, like, I, for some reason, don't get tired of it. Same thing with Mexican food. So, or Nigerian food. But I'm biased because
I
I'm
would
Nigerian Mexican. But the other stuff, I'm not Italian. I'm not Italian. I just like pasta. Because, but also pasta is very, like, stolen. Like, they did not make that. But yeah. I would eat Mexican food specifically though.
I have to agree with you. I don't know what specific item, but I feel like I would say, fuck. It's a good
Tacos.
one. Yeah,
Tacos.
I would say,
Yeah,
okay,
chili
I
relleno.
gotta agree with you, just because there's so many different sauces you can make. There's so many different styles you can make, so many different meats you can use. Um, it's so customizable, and you can even add, I don't know, there's so much shit you can make with like
Just
just
make me
utensils.
hungry.
If you have, if you fucking have a tortilla, you can make anything you want. I swear to
Literally.
God.
My drink would be horchata.
Can't agree with you on that. Sorry.
Uh, what about Jamaica? I like
Okay, here,
Jamaica.
no, because here's the thing. Here's the thing. Um, I've had
I get tired of it easily too, though.
I've had too many bad ones, as where people make it using like the powdered version, and it kind of leaves that like that like
Ew.
waxy feeling it
You're
leaves on your
scarred.
tongue. Yeah, I'm scarred. So I'm very, very, very suspicious about drinking.
Oh. Have you had Kerns?
No.
Kerns is really good to me. To me, but Kerns isn't made out of like powder. It's just like
Mm.
I think it's made in Mexico. I only get stuff that's made in Mexico if it's Mexican food usually because if it's made somewhere else, I'm like questioning it a little
Yeah,
bit.
and honestly, you have a valid right to question, because shit just tastes better sometimes when it comes from Mexico. You know what I mean? And
Exactly.
it really does.
That's
Mm.
why I miss beans SoCal, because SoCal's like where I lived, it was like 30 minutes, not even a 30-minute drive from
Get
TJ.
behind. I'm salty. Okay. So this next question. Oh God. Okay, so I think we can both answer this.
Mhm.
This next question says, where do you see Creative Mind Studios 2 to 3 years from now?
That's interesting.
Do you want to answer
I
first, or
feel
do you
like
want me to
hold
answer?
on. I don't know. I'm like the fortune teller here. I'm not. I'm into tarot, but I'm just like I feel
So
like
is Daniela though.
we'll just be expanding. We'll just be expanding. Like so, we'll just be having more and more resources and more
Literally.
representation because we'll just
Literally.
be learning more and more like every day that we're here. So
Yeah. I could not agree with you like more, just because the only thing that we're not going to be changing anything. The podcast is amazing. Blog is amazing. We like having all these different like mediums for people to engage in this content. And we're not really going to be changing anything because there's so much information to cover all the time, especially since the state of the education system is always changing. It literally doesn't matter. And yeah, it literally just doesn't matter wherever you are all around the world. There's so much to talk about in education, and also there's so much to talk about at every single grade level, which is why like we're doing those individual grade level workshops, because there's so much to talk about in every single grade level. Everybody thinks that ninth grade is like the joke around here, and in some aspects it is, but in also some aspects you kind of need to get your shit together in ninth grade and
somebody
kind
should
of,
tell me
huh.
that. Somebody should tell me that. I was homeless during it, so
Someone
I should
should have
do
told
that.
me that. Someone
And it
really
was
should have told
horrible.
me that too. And there's also other things too, like things that are related to the education system, but are also not. For example, like how do you gain experience in the workforce? How do you build a resume? How do you nail interviews? Shit like that. Um, and it's related to the education system in the fact that it should be taught. Like there literally should be a class on like workforce. Like it literally should just be called workforce, and you literally build your resume, you build your personal statement, you practice interviewing with your teacher and with other people for different jobs, and then at the end you schedule an interview and you get a fucking job at the end of the class.
I feel like with interviews though, like it depends on the person that is interviewing you because sometimes they be racist, or sometimes they be ableist, or there's like a different factor, and it's like you can't nail every interview because some people just are gonna hate you regardless.
Yeah, and that's a whole part of like learning how to interview too, is like learning how to like feel out the vibe and how you can work around that, because there are going to be some people like I actually did one of my interviews when I was looking for a new job a couple months ago, where I met this person, and one of the people who was interviewing me was just a straight up like just rude person who kind of wanted to get me out of the room. And so what I changed up the way that I was answering my questions, and I went from being very specific and detailed to just direct and straight to the point. No transition words. I was just answering their questions. And I just kept referring to my resume, and I ended up getting offered the job, but they were paying like $1 below minimum wage at the time. And I was like, no.
And you had to like work yourself through that interview and like try to adapt and everything to get it just for it to suck. Like
Literally.
unfair to you.
Some
Unfair to you.
interviews are going to be garbage, and that's fine. It
That's probably
happens.
why they didn't want to interview you because they were probably getting paid like $14 an hour or something.
They're not. Yeah, I feel like we kind of need to remember that the people who are interviewing you are most likely also not happy with their job, so still got to be a little kind.
Which is like there's so much intersectionality to it and it's like so complex. But it's like you want to put you kind of like at least me as like someone with like four Leo placements, I want to kind of like get mad at one person. But it's like there's so many people, like there's so many different aspects that I can't
Oh
just
my
get mad at one
God.
person. I can get
Yeah.
mad at like the people at the top because they're making the most money. Like that's fair for me to
Yeah.
be mad.
Seriously. Seriously. Oh my God. I wish I had enough money where I could just immediately jump to high class. You know what I mean? Like I kind of just want to jump right there. That would be a nice like wish. You know what I mean?
Just destroy the government.
Hmm?
Or we could just
Are
destroy
you
the
wait, okay, do you watch Parks and Rec, or have you watched Parks and Recreation?
I don't think I have. My friend has. They used to be obsessed with it.
Okay, but
I've seen the
basic.
good.
Okay, whatever. You need to watch it because you are literally Ron Swanson. I cannot state that enough. Literally, Ron Swanson it works in the government, so he can destroy the entire government.
Oh my god, I would totally do that. I mean, no, I wouldn't. Like legally, for legal reasons, I would not do that. Like allegedly, I would never. I would never. Allegedly, I might do it as like a
Okay,
joke. You
you
know.
can't put air quotes because if someone watches this on YouTube, they're gonna be like, "Oh, your ass is gonna." They're gonna be like, "Oh, you're."
Allegedly.
Okay, so
Allegedly.
if you run for political office, please just know that Tochi is an op. Like that's literally all we need to say. Like,
But I would never.
nope.
As a joke, like hypothetically, I would never be a cop. Never. Never. Even as a joke. Never. So.
Anyway, before you expose yourself and any of like your future plans,
A
um,
minute.
I know. Yeah, we're oh my gosh. Okay. Anyway, we're getting the light, which is what theater kids say. But anyway, this was a
I'm
super
theater.
great first episode. This was kind of just a little goofy trying to answer some of your questions. I'm gonna try and answer some more questions on our Instagram story, just because there was a lot of random ones that I did not want to like talk about today. Because I'm not in the headspace to do that. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us. We're super excited. We got more episodes coming out, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.